You've already seen how an advanced filter is really a very basic query run on only one table in your database. Well, sometimes you are going to want to be able to pull out information from more than one table at a time and combine it in a meaningful way so that you can analyze it. That is what a query can do for you. It pulls out the data you tell it to from the tables you tell it to look in and then shows it to you in a way that is easy for you to analyze. But you have to be very careful in the way you tell it to get your information, or it may not return the results you expected. Let's talk about how to design a query before we even get into using Access to set it up. Queries help you answer questions you may have about your data, like which customers have ordered technology books. Now, before we go much further, I think it will help if we talk about some query design basics. You don't need to know how to write in a formal query language to use Access, but understanding how queries work and using a process to design your own query can certainly make the process easier and increases the likelihood that you'll get the results you expect. To make any query work, you need to know three things. What fields do you want to see in the results? Now in this step, you're selecting the fields you want Access to show you in your results. Which tables or queries hold the info you need? In this step, you're telling Access where to get the information from. What conditions do you want the data to meet? This is telling Access that you want to see all the records where a certain condition is met. Now let's plan this out on paper for our first question. Which customers have ordered technology books? We have a new technology series and we want to send these customers a coupon for the next book release. So let's start planning. First, we need to select the fields we want to see in our results. If we want to send coupons to our customers, we'd obviously want the customer's name and address fields. So the fields we will select are first name, last name, street, city, state, and zip. These are in the customer's table. Now, which tables hold these fields that we need? We already know that we need the customers table for the names and addresses, but we're also going to need the books table to tell us which books are technology books. And we'll need the orders table because that's where a book is joined with a customer. Now, what conditions do we want the data to meet? Well, we want to see only the customer names and addresses for customers who have ordered books that have a category of technology. Now that we have a plan, we can start building a query in Access. We are going to build this query from scratch. You do that with the query design command on the Create tab on the ribbon. Now when the Show Table dialog box opens, pick all the tables that you outlined on your plan. We need the Customers table, the Orders table, and the Books table, so click them to add them. Now I need to look at my plan and decide what fields I need from each table. Well, I want to see the customer's first and last name and their street address, city, state, and zip. So I'll highlight those fields and drag them down to the bottom portion of the screen. I also need the category field from the Books table, so I'll drag that down there too. These are all the fields I care about, so now I have to tell Access how to show them to me. I want only books with the category of technology, so in criteria, I'll type technology. Access puts the quotes around it because that is the exact word it is looking for in the Books table. Now all you have to do is hit Run in the Results tab to run the query. If your results don't look like you expect them to, you may not have included everything from your plan. But ours looks pretty good. Now by default, whatever you drag to the bottom of the screen shows up in your results. We really don't need to see the category, so I'm going to show you how to remove this. Let's go back to Design View. And we're going to uncheck the box on the Show row above Technology. That way the category won't show in our results. Now don't forget to save your query. We may want to run this query again the next time we have a technology book released. Save it as customers of textbooks or something else logical. Okay, so now you've seen how to plan your query out on paper first and how to use the query design tool to set up a simple select query. Next, we'll look at how to use the query wizard to find out which book is our best. In the last lesson, we designed and built a query using the query design command. Now we'll build another query, but this time we'll add an extra function that helps summarize our results. Then we'll sort and filter our query results to define them even more. Okay, now this time, let's build a query to find out what category of books we sell most often. Start by thinking about what we want our results to look like. This will help us know what we need. We want to see the title, the author's first name and last name, the category, and the price of our best-selling books. And maybe we'd even want to see the number of times each book was ordered. If we decide we don't want this information once we've run the query, we can always go back and delete it. But it's a good idea to include everything you think you might want while you're planning the query, so we'll include it in our plan. Next, identify the tables we'll need. This time, we'll just need the orders table and the books table. Finally, think about the conditions we need our data to meet. We will want to see only the books that show up in the orders table, and we want to know which book's ID number shows up most often there, so we need to count how often each book ID appears in the orders table. Alright, we have our plan, so let's get started. From the Create tab, select the Query Design command. Pick which tables or queries you want to use as a basis for the new query. We need the books table and the orders table, so pick those from the list. From the books table, we want everything except the book ID. Now we need the book ID from the orders table, so we'll drag that down too. Now this makes sure we have a list of all the books we ordered. Here is where our count comes in. Now if we click Run right now, we see one record for each time a book was ordered. Well, Access can group the records with the same book ID and give us a count for each one. To do that, let's go back to Design View and click the Totals command. This makes an entire new row, the Total row, and it appears in the Query Design window. Now by default, this row sets everything to group by something. But all we're really concerned with is the count, so that's what we're going to change. Now, in the Total cell for Book ID, click on the drop down and select Count. This is how we tell Access to count the number of times each book ID appears in the orders table. Now when we click Run, we get a column that tells us how many times each book has appeared in the orders table. It has grouped each book's title, author, price, and category to show up only one time in the results, and it shows us the number of times a book ID appears in the orders table. Now if you pay close attention, you'll notice that the last column says Count of Book ID, but in Design View it just said Book ID. I just wanted to point that out so it wouldn't be confusing. Now, we can go back and change the design of the query to sort the count highest to lowest or descending so we can see which books were ordered most at the top. We could also change the design to filter for certain categories if we wanted to know what technology titles sell the best, for example. Now back in our query design view, we add the criteria of technology for the category field. Now this whole row is called criteria. It filters your data based on the criteria you set here. Now let's save this query as our best sellers by category. So now you've seen how you can create and modify queries in order to answer the questions you may have about your data. But you also saw that the data that is returned doesn't look very nice if you have to formally share them with someone else. Our next lesson will show you how to run reports and how to format them to look good to other people.